Modern ecology is a multidisciplinary science which depends on a variety of disciplines such as physics, chemistry, mathematics, statistics, meteorology, climatology, geology, geography, economics, sociology, agriculture science, forestry, horticulture, genetics, physiology, etc. All these disciplines have helped in the better understanding of many ecological principles. For instance, meteorological and climatological data for certain geographic localities allow for a more implied interpretation of results. A basic knowledge of forestry can be invaluable for a forest ecologist to understand forest type distribution, floristic composition and prevalent environmental factors. Likewise, statistical data helps in interpreting the reasons for activity, population increases, migrations, probability of ecological events occurring in a particular area, sampling techniques and reliability of results. Paleontology, geology provides information about the ancestral organisms and environmental situations prevalent in past. Evolution and genetics are utilized to interpret the reason for organic changes when linked with environmental conditions, establishment of new populations and species, environmental effects on genetic populations and species, and so on. Such interdisciplinary approaches to ecology consequently have given rise to following subdivisions of ecology. 1. Ecological genetics. An ecologist recognized a kind of genetic plasticity in the case of every organism. In any environment, only those organisms that are favored by the environment survive. The branch of ecology dealing with genetics in relation to ecology is called ecological genetics. 2. Paleoecology. It deals with the movements of biotic elements based on paleontological evidence, which provides information about ancestral organisms and environmental conditions existing in the past. 3. Ecophysiology. The factors of environment have a direct bearing on the functional aspects of organisms. The ecophysiology deals with the survival of populations as a result of functional adjustments of organisms with different ecological conditions of the ecosystem. 4. Chemical ecology. It deals with the adaptations of animals or preferences of particular organisms like insects to particular chemical substances. Pedology is the study of soil and their influence on the organisms. 5. Pedology. It is a branch of terrestrial ecology and it deals 12 Ecology, environmental biology, with the study of soil, in particular their acidity, alkalinity, humus content, mineral contents, soil type, etc., and their influence on the organisms. 6. Ecogeography. It deals with the study of the role of the environment in animal distribution. It is related with biogeography, which is concerned with the structural and functional relations of living organisms in space, which form the immediate environment of the individuals as well as populations. Ecofloras and ecofaunas are the lowest units of which a biogeographic flora or fauna is made up of. 7. Ecological energetics. It deals with energy conservation and its flow in the organisms within the ecosystem. In it, thermodynamics has its significant contribution. Because of its far-flung involvements with so many fields, ecology is often regarded as a generality rather than a speciality. Visualizing this fact, an ecologist, A. McFadden, 1957, wrote in his book Animal Ecology, Aims and Methods, the ecologist is something of a chartered libertine. He roams at will over the legitimate preserves of the plant and animal biologist, the taxonomist, the physiologist, the behaviorist, the meteorologist, the geologist, the physicist, the chemist, and even the sociologist. He poaches from all these and from other established and respected disciplines. It is indeed a major problem for the ecologist in his own interest to set bounds to his divagations. ECOILOGICALTOOILS and TECHNIQUs. Ecology has been studied on three broad lines: the field, laboratory, and mathematics. Most of the ecologists have studied ecology from either a descriptive or analytical point of view. The descriptive point of view remains mainly natural history. A descriptive ecologist as a natural historian has asked the question, what is present? He has described the life histories and characteristics of organisms and also has done a correlated study of many of the responses of an organism, whether it was responding as an individual or as a member of a population, to the presence of physical forces in its habitat, such as weather, food, space and others. According to Moen, 1973, a descriptive ecologist has to proceed a bit further than the natural historian in relating observed characteristics of the organism to observed characteristics of the habitat in a quantitative way. This has resulted in the formation of many ecological rules. Bergmann's rule is an example. Animals living further north tend to be larger. These types of rules are generally applicable, although exceptions can be found in looking at detailed relationships. The analytical ecologist asks the question, why? He is interested in the mechanism operating in the natural world. The recognition of simple relationships such as the condition of the range and conditions of the animal are pursued further by analyzing the requirements of the animal through time and the ability of the range to satisfy these requirements. An analytical ecologist has to face several practical problems because he has to work with living systems and more often he comes across the variables which are numerous and normally highly complex. Consequently, the tool and techniques used by the physical scientists could not be easily applied in ecological investigations, nor were the results of ecological experiments so precise as those obtained in physics and chemistry. Despite these problems, certain modern ecologists have made an active use of tools and techniques of chemistry, physics and mathematics in their ecological investigations. Physical and chemical measurements were taken to measure the various parameters of the environment. These may range from simple chemical determination of the various elements to the use of such sophisticated apparatuses such as paper chromatogram, infrared gas analyzer, recording spectrophotometer, and microbomb calorimeter. The use of statistical procedures such as correlation, multiple regression, and matrix algebra and the application of modern algebra, calculus, and computer science to mathematical models simulating field conditions GIS analyzer for H, 0 and CO. Introduction 13. Have provided new insights into population interactions and ecosystem functioning. With the use of electronic equipment and biotelemetric techniques, ecologists can sample and measure plant and animal populations without destroying them. Radioisotopes have enabled the investigators to follow the pathways of nutrients through ecosystem and to determine the time and extent of transfer. Laboratory microcosms, samples of both aquatic and soil microsystems, are useful in determining the rates of nutrient cycling and other parameters of ecosystems functioning. SIGNIFI. Man is himself an organism within an environment. Like other animals, man is influenced by the physical features of his environment. He is absolutely dependent upon other species for his food, clothing, medicine, and other similar aspects, and he has to adjust to other individuals of his own species. Therefore, the basic laws of ecology apply well to him, and its fundamental knowledge is must for man for his own existence on this planet Earth. Man almost always has a modifying influence, and without proper regulation he often has a destructive effect. For instance, by applying certain ecological principles to such fields as agriculture, biological surveys, game management, pest control, forestry, horticulture, and fishery biology, he has received tremendous economic gains. Its knowledge is found critically important for intelligent conservation, whether in relation to soil, forest, wildlife, water supply, or fishery resources. Further, though man has been known to control his environment successfully to meet his needs, but indiscriminate control of different pathogens or pests such as bacteria, fungi, weeds, insects, rodents, etc., through use of different chemical poisons or pesticides, bactericides, fungicides, insecticides, etc., the release of massive quantities of radioactive debris, xenobiotics, i.e., chemical compounds synthesized by humans which are not naturally found in living organisms and cannot normally be metabolized, broken down, by them. C. Green et al. 1990. Discarded chemicals and industrial wastes into rivers result in atmospheric and aquatic pollution, which may have short and long-term ecological effects. Further, rapid growth of urbanization and fast rate of multiplication of human population have resulted in fatal threat of scarcity of wildlife, food, open space, and of survival. There are certain other ecological problems. Agriculture and now forestry are concentrating upon monoculture, single-species ecosystems, in spite of the difficulties and dangers associated with unnaturally simplified ecosystems that lack a diversity of species. Over much of the world, especially in the grasslands, we continue to disrupt the energy balance through overgrazing and end up with eroded mountainsides, silt-clogged streams and lakes, and a scarcity of water. Therefore, future of human life on Earth demands more knowledge about the ecosystems and other ecological problems. Ecology in India. Growth of ecology in India is based on the earliest G contributions, 1875 to 1929, of some forest Ophic who provided purely descriptive accounts of forests. In fact, the first exhaustive ecological contribution was made by Winfield Dudgeon, 1921, who published an ecological account of the Upper Gangetic Plains. He employed in his studies the concept of seasonal succession. Saxton, 1922, elaborated this concept. However, Misra, 1946, 1958, 1959 contradicted this view of succession. Instead of it, he concluded that the processes mentioned in Dudgeon's work might be better referred to as seasonality of communities rather than ecological succession. Growth of PIANTECOILOGY. The plant communities were studied with phytosociological approach first time by Agarkar, 1924, who studied the grasslands. Barucha and co-workers, 1930, 1937, 1957, at Bombay worked out phytosociology of grasslands. The study of forest vegetation was conducted by Champion, 1929, 1935, 1937, Troop, 1925, Bohr, 1947, 1948, etc. Ecological studies of autecological nature were performed for a variety of forest trees by Champion and Pant, 1931, Jagat Singh, 1925, Fodney, 1925, and Champion and Griffith, 1947. Indeed, comprehensive autecological studies in India was initiated by Professor R. Misra, who worked out the autecology of herbaceous plants of different habitats. Misra and Rao, 1948, studied the autecology of Lindenbergia polyantha, revealing physical and biotic conditions influences the responses of the organisms. Ecology in India 15. Various significant aspects regarding the distribution of this species. Further growth of Indian ecology can be contributed to extensive investigation into phytosociology of grasslands and mangroves by Barucha, 1941, forests by G. S. Puri, 1950, 1951, 1960, and deserts by Sarup and co-workers. Two pioneer centers of ecological research were established in 1930s in India, first by R. Misra at the Department of Botany, Banaras Hindu University, and second by F. R. Barucha at the Institute of Science, Bombay. From 1937 onwards, R. Misra did extensive work at Banaras, Varanasi. 1. Ecology of grasslands, wastelands, playgrounds, lakes and ponds, low-lying lands, riparian eroded slopes and ecotypic differentiation. In 1950, Professor Misra established another ecological research institute at Sagar University, MP. In 1956, Misra moved to Varanasi and developed an internationally Recognized center of ecological investigation. At this center, in between 1955-1962, investigations were carried on in the diverse areas such as ecophysiology versus call root-soil relationships of grasslands, S.S. Raman, and riparian lands, R.S. Ambushed, ecotypic differentiation, page S. Ramakrishnan, and reproductive capacity of herbage species, H.R. Son, and B.G. Nelvigi. During 1963-1971, Benares Center of Ecology carried mainly ecological work on the medicinal plants and the weeds, R.S. Tripathi, grassland productivity, J.S. Singh, and forest litter decomposition, A.N.D. productivity, K.P. Singh. Ecologists have conducted studies, ecological and syncological studies of foreign several herbaceous plants of est communities were conducted by Sharma, 1955, Grasslands and Wastelands. Bhatia, 1954, 1955, 1956, Misra and Joshi, 1952. Aurora, 1961-1964, Puri, 1949, 1950, Rao, 1967, etc. Mayor Homaiji, 1989, did vegetation mapping in India. Dani and Behera, 1990, did quantitative analysis of forest community of Budkhandmos, Fulbani, Orissa. Joshi and Behera, 1990, did qualitative analysis of vegetation from Emix tropical forest of Orissa. Productivity studies of forests have been performed by Misra, 1969, Raman, 1970, Singh, 1971, Banda, 1971, Sharma, 1972, Farugi, 1972, and Pandya et al., 1967, 1969, 1971. Rajvanshi and Gupta, 1980, studied decomposition of litter in a tropical and deciduous forest. Rajvanshi and Gupta, in 1985, worked on mineral cycling in a tropical deciduous Dalbergia Sisu Roxby forest. Chaturvedi and Singh, 1978, 1987, described dry matter dynamics and nutrient dynamics of pine forests of central Himalaya. Ambushed, 1988, studied biomass productivity of some tropical grazing lands and plantation forests. Ecological and phytosociological studies on several herbaceous plants of grasslands and wastelands have been made by Pandya, 1953, 1960, 1964, 1968 Tiwari, 1955 Ramakrishnan, 1960 Ambushed, 1963, 1964 Tripathi, 1965, 1977 Kal, 1959 San, 1962, 1965, etc. Ecology of some medicinal plants have been made by Pathak, 1967, Kal, 1965, Shetty, 1967, etc. Vimal and Talshikar, 1983, suggested various methods of recycling of agricultural wastes. Ecological investigations of specialized habitats were also done, such as of Walls Varshni, 1963, 16 ECOLOGY, environmental biology. Of eroded riverbanks, Ambushed, 1968, of deserts, Joshi, 1956, Mulay and Joshi, 1964 freshwaters, Misra, 1946, Das, 1968, Gupta, 1968, Jha, 1968, Gopal, 1968 and Sinha, 1969. Ecological studies of fungi were initiated at School of Ecology at Benares by 1960s under the leadership of R.Y. Roy. His team made syncological studies on the rhizospermicoflora of different kinds of plants. His teammate, R.S. Dwivedi, has also contributed to ecology of fungi active in the decay of herbaceous plants, forest litter, etc. P. K. Khanna, P. D. Sharma and B. Rai investigated the phenomenon of succession of airborne fungi on decaying Dalbergia Sisu grasses. Some other active centers of fungal ecology were established at Madras by T. S. Sadasivan, at Sagar by S. B. Saxena, and at Lucknow by J. N. Rai. In recent years, i.e., 1972, 1985, interaction of soil microfungi and earthworms has been investigated by M.C. Dash and his team of researchers comprising J.B. Cragg, Senapati, Nanda, Behera, P.C. Mishra, H.K. Dash, etc., at Sambalpur, Orissa. Gr.